The shocking truth behind GM's suppressed 292 inline-6 engine. What if I told you GM created an engine so powerful that it had to be erased from history? Not banned, erased. No records, no official documents. Yet it existed. A power plant with the potential to rewrite the history of American muscle cars, only to be eliminated by forces working behind closed doors. This isn't just another story about emissions regulations or financial decisions. This is a cover-up, a mystery buried deep within General Motors' archives. The Chevrolet 292 Inline-6 wasn't just another engine, it was a dangerous rival. Designed to challenge the dominance of GM's V8s, it was built to last, delivering massive torque with an almost indestructible design. Yet, instead of placing it in high-performance cars, where it could have made history, GM relegated it to heavy-duty trucks and industrial applications, hiding its true potential from the public eye. But why? Why would GM suppress an engine capable of outperforming some of their most profitable V8s? What happened to the high-performance 292 prototypes that mysteriously vanished? And why, to this day, are there no detailed technical documents about its development in GM's official records? Today, we uncover the truth behind one of the biggest engineering cover-ups in American automotive history. This is the Forbidden Six, GM's darkest secret about the Chevrolet 292. Inline-6, an engine silenced by the very company that created it. Brace yourself, because what you're about to hear may shatter everything you thought you knew about GM. But this isn't just a story to be told and forgotten. If you're as hungry for the truth as we are, don't just watch. Become part of the underground movement, exposing GM's biggest cover-ups. Do you think GM deliberately erased this engine from history? Let us know in the comments. Hit like if you believe muscle cars deserve their lost legends back, and subscribe to Muscle Car Masters, because this is only the beginning. The mysterious history and secret development. To understand how the Chevrolet 292 Inline-6 became one of GM's most carefully concealed secrets, we need to go back to 1963. A time when the muscle car wars were heating up, and General Motors was pouring resources into its small block and big block V8s. The public was sold the idea that V8 power was king, while anything less was seen as second-rate. But deep inside GM's engineering division, a small group of rogue engineers had a different vision, one that could have disrupted the entire muscle car hierarchy. The 292 wasn't just another inline-6, it was overbuilt, over-engineered, and dangerously capable. Retired GM engineers later revealed that, in testing, the 292's low-end torque outclassed several small-block V8s, threatening GM's carefully controlled product strategy. If allowed to shine, it could have challenged the dominance of the small-block 327 and even rivaled some big blocks. But instead of celebrating its potential, GM chose to bury it. The secrecy surrounding the 292 runs deeper than simple marketing decisions. Over the years, key test results and internal reports mysteriously vanished from GM's archives. Some engineers later revealed that the engine's true capabilities were deliberately hidden. One former GM powertrain engineer, speaking anonymously, recalled a chilling directive during testing.
We were told to shut down any high-performance testing immediately. This engine was far more powerful than the numbers GM allowed to be published.
Who issued that order? And why? The deeper we dig, the clearer it becomes. GM wasn't just downplaying the 292. They were protecting the empire they built around their high-performance V8s. But there's an even darker side to this story. Hidden within GM's archives are whispers of a prototype program that tested high-performance versions of the 292, including turbocharged and fuel-injected variants with output figures that could have embarrassed even the fiercest V8s of the era. These prototypes, insiders claim, were tested under extreme conditions. But before they could reach production, They were ordered destroyed. If that's true, then the question remains, were all of them really eliminated? Or could some of these lost engines still be out there, hidden away in private collections or forgotten storage facilities, waiting to be rediscovered? What if I told you GM created an engine so powerful that it had to be erased from history? Not banned, erased. No records, no official documents, yet it existed. A power plant with the potential to rewrite the history of American muscle cars, only to be eliminated by forces working behind closed doors. This isn't just another story about emissions regulations or financial decisions. This is a cover-up, a mystery buried deep within General Motors' archives. The Chevrolet 292 Inline-6 wasn't just another engine, it was a dangerous rival. Designed to challenge the dominance of GM's V8s, it was built to last, delivering massive torque with an almost indestructible design. Yet, instead of placing it in high-performance cars, where it could have made history, GM relegated it to heavy-duty trucks and industrial applications, hiding its true potential from the public eye. But why? Why would GM suppress an engine capable of outperforming some of their most profitable V8s? What happened to the high-performance 292 prototypes that mysteriously vanished? And why, to this day, are there no detailed technical documents about its development in GM's official records? Today, we uncover the truth behind one of the biggest engineering cover-ups in American automotive history. This is the Forbidden Six, GM's darkest secret about the Chevrolet 292. Inline-6, an engine silenced by the very company that created it. Brace yourself, because what you're about to hear may shatter everything you thought you knew about GM. But this isn't just a story to be told and forgotten. If you're as hungry for the truth as we are, don't just watch. Become part of the underground movement, exposing GM's biggest cover-ups. Do you think GM deliberately erased this engine from history? Let us know in the comments. Hit like if you believe muscle cars deserve their lost legends back, and subscribe to Muscle Car Masters, because this is only the beginning. The engine GM didn't want you to know about. At first glance, the Chevrolet 292 Inline-6 might seem like just another reliable workhorse. Strong, durable, but nothing extraordinary. However, beneath its unassuming exterior was an engine that defied expectations. This wasn't just a standard inline-six. It was a technological anomaly, engineered with components that were far beyond what was necessary for a truck engine. It had the bones of a high-performance powerhouse, yet it was deliberately restricted to fleet vehicles and heavy-duty applications. But why would GM design an engine with such immense potential, only to bury it under industrial use? The 292 wasn't just built to last, it was built to withstand immense stress and deliver serious torque. It featured a forged steel crankshaft, a component typically reserved for high-performance racing engines, not utility trucks. Unlike the 5 main bearing setup used in GM's small block V8s, the 292 had 7 oversized main bearings, making it exceptionally stable under high loads and RPMs. The thick-walled engine block and heavy-duty connecting rods hinted at an engine built for far more power than its official ratings suggested. Even its cooling system was over-engineered, designed to handle extended high-performance use rather than just heavy-duty work. But the most puzzling part? GM's suspiciously low official ratings. On paper, the 292 was rated at 165 horsepower and 280 pound-feet of torque, respectable for a truck engine, but nothing groundbreaking. However, independent dyno tests tell a different story. Multiple sources reported that factory-stock 292s were consistently producing over 200 horsepower, with torque numbers approaching 350 pound-feet, 20 to 25% higher than GM's official numbers. If the engine was clearly outperforming its specs, Why did GM intentionally underrate it? And more importantly, why were some internal GM test results never made public? The answer, as insiders have revealed, wasn't about engineering. It was about corporate politics and profit margins. GM had spent decades crafting the V8 supremacy narrative, and the muscle car era was built on the idea that true performance belonged to V8s, not inline-6s. If the 292 had been allowed to reach its full potential, it could have undermined GM's entire performance strategy. A high-output, high-torque inline-6 would have been a direct competitor to some of Chevrolet's most profitable small-block V8s. The 292 could have changed everything, but GM wasn't about to let that happen. This wasn't just about restricting an engine, it was about control. Leaked internal documents suggest that GM went beyond simple detuning. They designed specific limitations to ensure that even skilled mechanics couldn't easily unlock the 292's true power. The intake and exhaust manifolds were deliberately restrictive, choking airflow and limiting efficiency. The camshaft profiles were unusually conservative, capping the engine's high-end performance. And in GM's own factory service manuals, there were explicit warnings against modifications that would have unleashed the engine's full capability. Struggle inside GM. The story of the Chevrolet 292 inline-6 isn't just about an engine. It's about a battle for control inside General Motors. This was a war fought behind closed doors, where engineers, executives, and corporate strategists clashed over the future of GM's performance lineup. It wasn't just about horsepower or torque. It was about who controlled the narrative of American performance. By the mid-1970s, small block and big block V8s had been cemented as GM's golden ticket, aggressively marketed as the ultimate performance choice. Corporate leadership saw them as highly profitable, universally accepted, and crucial to GM's identity. Any internal threat to this carefully crafted image was quickly neutralized, and that's exactly what happened to the Typhoon 6 project. In 1975, behind GM's closed doors, an internal project known as Typhoon 6 was quietly developed. This was not just another variation of the 292. It was a high-performance version specifically designed for the Camaro, meant to push boundaries and challenge the status quo. Early testing produced results that shocked executives. The Typhoon 6 wasn't just competitive. It was outperforming several of GM's own V8s in key performance areas, including low-end torque, fuel efficiency, and durability. But as the project gained momentum, something happened that no engineer expected. It was abruptly shut down just as it was approaching production. The official reasoning? Manufacturing constraints. The real reason? According to former GM insiders, it was seen as a direct threat to the V8 empire GM had worked so hard to establish. One former GM engineer, speaking anonymously, described the moment the project was killed.
When the Typhoon 6 was cancelled, we all knew the reason had nothing to do with engineering. It had everything to do with forces inside GM that wanted to protect the V8 at all costs.
The numbers didn't lie. The Typhoon 6 had the potential to be a game-changer. It offered an alternative vision of muscle car performance, one that balanced power, efficiency, and longevity in ways that could have reshaped GM's lineup. But rather than embracing this innovation, GM chose to erase it. Rumors persist that several Typhoon 6 test mules were built and secretly tested under extreme conditions. Some insiders believe that a few of these engines still exist today, hidden away in private collections or long-forgotten GM storage facilities. But if GM had its way, the world would never know about them. This wasn't just another canceled project. It was a deliberate cover-up. Documents related to the Typhoon 6 mysteriously disappeared from GM's archives, and even longtime employees have struggled to find any official mention of its existence. Was this a simple business decision, or was GM actively working to bury the truth about what the 292 could have been? The racing scandals GM doesn't want you to know. If there was ever undeniable proof that the Chevrolet 292 Inline-6 was more than just a workhorse engine, it was what happened on the racetrack. Away from the corporate boardrooms, in the underground world of grassroots racing, raw performance spoke louder than marketing strategies, and the 292 was beginning to make a name for itself. But this newfound reputation wasn't welcomed by GM. In the late 1960s and early 1970s, independent racers began experimenting with the 292-powered Chevy Nova in NHRA stock eliminator events. Though officially rated at modest horsepower, the engine's massive low-end torque and nearly indestructible construction gave it a competitive edge that few had anticipated. These Novas started clocking suspiciously fast times, catching the attention of race officials and rival teams. At first, the NHRA didn't see the 292 as a serious threat. After all, who would expect an inline-6 to dominate against V8 muscle? But as these cars continued to win, scrutiny intensified. 292-powered Novas were repeatedly inspected, subjected to frequent teardowns and invasive checks. Yet time and time again, officials found nothing illegal. The engines were bone stock, yet they were embarrassing some of GM's most celebrated small-block V8s. According to leaked documents and first-hand testimonies from former racers, GM executives weren't pleased. The last thing they wanted was for the public to realize that their so-called truck motor could rival and even outperform some of their most profitable V8s. Then, in 1972, everything changed. NHRA officials suddenly adjusted classification rules, restructured weight-to-power ratios, and effectively handicapped the 292. The inline-6 that was humiliating GM's prized V8s was eliminated from serious competition overnight. This wasn't an isolated case. Similar stories surfaced from local dirt tracks and outlaw drag racing circuits, where dominant 292-powered cars faced sudden rule changes, increased inspections, and mysterious disqualifications. One former race official later admitted,
"If a guy was running a 292 and winning, we were told to keep a close eye on him. The orders always seemed to come from higher up."
This wasn't just about one engine. It was about protecting GM's performance hierarchy at all costs. The underground world, the hunt for the Forbidden Six. The Chevrolet 292 wasn't just an engine. It became a symbol of defiance, a piece of buried GM history that collectors and gearheads have spent years trying to uncover. But finding an original, untouched 292 isn't as simple as searching junkyards or swap meets. According to insiders, GM didn't just suppress the 292, they actively worked to erase its most powerful variants from existence. Collectors who have spent decades tracking the Forbidden Six claim that GM bought back, dismantled, or outright destroyed the rarest versions of the engine. Prototypes that included turbocharged, high compression, and fuel-injected configurations, capable of dominating the muscle car scene. Instead of letting these engines fall into the hands of performance enthusiasts, they were systematically wiped out. But some secrets refused to stay buried. While GM worked to erase the 292 from official records, underground collectors and racers never let it fade into obscurity. Hidden in garages, swapped between collectors, and whispered about in private circles, the 292 quietly survived. Engine builders and racing teams have spent years tracking down factory-built 292s, particularly the high-performance blocks that escaped GM's purge. Some reports even suggest that a handful of Typhoon 6 prototypes were smuggled out of GM's facilities before the project was officially shut down. Could these lost engines still be out there, tucked away in barns, forgotten warehouses, or hidden deep in private collections? The search for the Forbidden Six isn't just about horsepower, it's about proving that the corporate narrative was a lie. One longtime collector, who has spent years chasing rare GM prototypes, made a chilling statement.
I know people who have been pressured, even threatened, to stop digging into the history of the 292. When you start looking for something that wasn't supposed to exist, you attract the wrong kind of attention.
There are whispers in the collector community about engines that have been secretly swapped between owners, sold in secrecy, and even disguised to avoid detection. Some claim to have found 3A2 stamped blocks that appear to be reworked 292s, while others talk about mysterious factory heads with markings that don't match any known GM production records. Whether these stories are true or not, one thing is certain. The Chevrolet 292 was never meant to be forgotten, and those who know its true potential will never stop searching. The revival of a lost legend. The story of the Chevrolet 292 Inline-6 is more than just a forgotten engine. It's a reminder of how corporate decisions have shaped automotive history in ways most enthusiasts will never know. The 292 wasn't just another truck motor, it was built for something greater, a powerhouse that could have redefined inline-6 performance. But instead, its potential was locked away, its existence reduced to a mere footnote in GM's official records. Yet, legends don't die that easily. Today, a new generation of enthusiasts is reviving the 292's hidden potential, unlocking the power that GM tried to suppress for decades. Modern technology, precision machining, and advanced tuning techniques have transformed the 292 into the high-performance beast it was always meant to be. With turbocharging, custom fuel injection, and aggressive camshaft profiles, builders have proven what GM's own engineers likely knew all along. The 292 was a performance monster just waiting to be unleashed. Some modified versions are now pushing past 400 horsepower, with stock bottom ends that refuse to break, further proving that GM's restrictions were never about engineering limitations, but about protecting their V8 empire. But this raises an even bigger question. If GM was willing to suppress an engine like the 292, what else have they buried? How many other high-performance engines were erased from history before they ever reached the streets? The Forbidden Six is just one chapter in a much larger story of corporate manipulation, lost horsepower, and hidden performance potential. So, what do you think? Was the 292 truly a victim of corporate sabotage? Do you believe there are still forgotten prototypes waiting to be uncovered? Let us know in the comments below. If you love discovering lost automotive history, hit that like button, share this video with fellow enthusiasts, and subscribe to Muscle Car Masters, because this is only the beginning. Stay tuned. More secrets are waiting to be uncovered, and together, we're going to bring them back into the light.